A lot of changes, Gil. Your home screen was in sort of a state of limbo last time we checked in, and it's been a little while. So, do you have any updates on that one?
Oh, yeah. So, last time, the last episode, my home screen was pretty much where it's going to be. But I sent you that article, Apps of a Feather, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Twitter changed their API, their public API, to, I guess, more of a paid model. And in order to get all the features that we had before, mainly around like push notifications and auto refreshing the timeline and stuff like that, it would cost developers now somewhere around like $16 a month to even break even. Like, so they would have to charge every single customer $16 a month to break even, and that's just not going to happen. So I've been rethinking what I'm going to use for Twitter. I really like Bluebird, but I don't get notifications for anything, and it's like kind of buggy, and it's because of this change in Twitter. And as you may know, the Twitter icon has a blue background. Bluebird I have as a white background. So it really just messes me up. And I don't know where I haven't solved that yet. Basically, my home screen right now, I have two Twitter icons. I've got Bluebird where it's supposed to go, and then I've got the Twitter app in the dock until I figure something out.
So are you saying, well, two things here. One, and we talked about it a little bit off the podcast, but it is astounding to me that this is a thing that Twitter has. I don't know. Were they benefiting from having like an open like API for people to develop their own Twitter apps?
I don't think so, but to me it's kind of like that seems like woven into the culture of what Twitter is supposed to be. I mean, it's still a company that needs to make money, but just like the, free and openness of it, even if there's ads and unit tracking, which, you can define free and open however you like. But it just seems like letting the community like do what they want with it was like just part of the culture. And they've since moved to this kind of paid model where it is still, I guess, free in some cases, but only for up to 15 users. And, a lot of these apps have tens of thousands of users. So
yeah,
I don't really know where I stand on it. I mean, of course, I don't like it because it negatively affects my home screen, but I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
I wonder if something happened that triggered this, or they're just like, it's about time now. But yeah, they've been more open, and I don't know how this affects so I've used little APIs of Twitter that are just, they're not the stream thing, right? They're not what you use to build the app on. It's just like their regular, I guess, API where you just kind of like can pull tweets or whatever from like a specific user.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if this will affect me or not yet in my little weird ways that I use Twitter. Hopefully some of the fun little ways that you can kind of get data and kind of make an analysis of, different specific users and stuff like that remains available, but I do not know.
Yeah, it seems, I mean, I haven't looked into the documentation too much, but it seems like small scale stuff isn't too badly affected. It's mostly just these large apps that are supporting thousands and thousands of users.
And then the other thing is, so is this change enacted?
Yes, as of like a few weeks ago.
And you just said, though, that one of your apps, are they still trying? Are they still fighting the good fight, or?
Well, I'm using Bluebird, formerly Flitter, but they're all affected the same way. So I don't know how that affected what I was using before. But like there have been a few situations where I have set up to get notifications on mobile, and I'm not getting them. And then I looked into it, and this is why. So It's kind of frustrating because to stay on top of things, I need to open Twitter all the time.
Well, yeah, because there's whole companies built on alternative Twitter apps, and I don't know if they got some warning. Maybe the bigger ones. I don't know.
Yeah, it was apparently communicated over a year ago that it was happening.
Okay, well that's at least kind of them. But I mean, I'm surprised that everyone hasn't just closed down shop, and maybe they're gonna lobby for more privileges and permissions and stuff. But
Yeah.
like I'm a little bit surprised that whatever you have, can function at all.
Yeah, it's mainly just the push notifications and refresh that's affected. And I think this like appsofafeather.com, or it's appsofafeather.com with dashes in between all the words.
Hmm.
This seems like it was like collectively made by Tweetbot, Twitterific, and a few others.
Oh,
So it sounds like they're trying to at least make like this isn't communication from Twitter. This seems opinionated, obviously, from developers. So it sounds like they're trying to lobby in some way. It sounds like they did make some progress in pricing or something about a year ago. I don't know. It's all in that article. It's been a while since I read it, but yeah, the pricing right here is it's around $3,000 a month for 250 users. So it's making it kind of, these third-party apps basically impossible.
yeah. I mean, I could see vaguely the possibility that like one could still exist at 16 a month, like just
But
barely. But yeah,
every user has to pay $16 a month.
it'd have to do
Just-
a lot
Yeah.
better. So I don't know. This is back to this whole conversation worth it. Just Reddit's changing, Twitter's changing, YouTube's changing. The future's
Yeah.
scary.
And you warned me about this. You said one app's going to change, or you're going to want one app on your home screen is going to mess everything up, and it happened like a week after I had it nailed down.
With Evernote and then Twitter. So
Yeah. Well, Evernote was a good thing, and then Reddit. So between those, it was kind of like too many of my apps had white backgrounds that like the 3 or 4 that didn't already were like making things look weird.
yeah.
So it was either go all white background or like try and figure out something else, and I went all white background. So
Yeah, I think I don't know because I got you on the white background now, and you'll see. I still have the white background going on, and I think we can make a push for this because black background has had its time, and so there's a possibility here that it's now time for white.
well, I would rather, we talked about this last time too, but Apple allowing kind of transparent icons, because I would rather have a black background, especially with this OLED screen, just for like battery reasons. It also just black just looks really nice on this phone. And this white is just like, obviously every pixel is powered. So I would rather have black, but that's just kind of impossible.
Yeah, I would definitely rather have black too. It's just that with the benefit of, like so we'll get into my new home screen here, but it still has the dock hidden, right? And as far as I can tell, that's just available if it's white or some not pure black color, like it's kind of a glitch. And then the apps that have white backgrounds will kind of blend in. So those two benefits kind of make it worth it to me. And especially because my lock screen is just pure black. So I kind of get this nice contrast when I unlock my phone. So
Yeah, I have the same thing. My lock screen is all black, but then my home screen is white.
yeah. But just to wrap up the Twitter thing, I just like first party mostly because they are going to be able to do more than any third party developer can. Even if they, have their ads and whatever, it's just always going to be nice and stable, and it's comfortable, right? And they don't have to deal with, oh, now it doesn't support this or this, there's just a lot in the whole third party world.
I would rather use first party also, but it's like I just hate the ads that much that I'll like if Twitter offered like a paid tier that I could pay $10 a year or like $2 a month or whatever it would be, they would make so much more money off of me paying $1 a month than me looking at their ads. Like if they gave me that option, then I would be fine with the timeline not being chronological.
Yeah.
But it's just like those two things combined. Like I have to look at ads, and I'm being like pushed all these people that I don't follow. Like, hey, you should follow this person. You should, Twitter has their own agenda, and like it doesn't match what I'm using Twitter for. Whereas these other third-party apps align closer than with how I use Twitter. So it's just like that conflict there. That the reason that I don't like using the main Twitter app. But yeah.
Yeah, for me it's just that like even if you just say, oh, the first party app, like let's see what else. Oh man, there's like 20 of them, and then you got to look at 20 apps. And I'm just like, you know what? Twitter did their app half decently. Reddit did their app half decently. I don't really need the alternative. So that's kind of how I look at it. So I have an ever so slightly modified. I know you saw my home screen already through unofficial channels.
Yes.
But I have a slightly modified.
Oh, okay. Yeah, send that to me, and we'll get into yours.
All right, so here it comes. You remember what my last one looked like?
Yeah, kind of.
It's pretty close, except for this top row here. The top row is the big change.
Yeah. I do have questions.
Go ahead.
So, first of all, it looks like you got rid of apps. So, my question is, are all of these... So, obviously, these are like custom iconed apps that are very creatively chosen to make it look like WWDC. Or, hold on. What would Gray do? What would Gray do? Sorry.
Yeah.
Not WWDC, but what would Gray do? So, my question is, are these all useless icons or like linking to some bookmarking website, or are these forwarding to actual apps?
Yep. So just to, we'll describe it real quick here. I've got all white.
This is a podcast.
Oh, it's pretty simple. All white background, just purely white. The bottom or the dock has, 4 apps in it that don't have a white background, so they look like kind of squares. And then the very top row is 4 folders, and I've done kind of a creative thing with the folders that I'm not even going to try to describe. I guess just look at the picture in the show notes if you want to see that. But it's kind of visually interesting. And then I have a little line, like divider line, between the folders because they don't have names on the folders. There's a little glitch that lets you get rid of the names. And then I have 4 apps that do have white backgrounds, so they blend in with my white background. They look like they're kind of just floating, although they do have labels, so I don't like that, but that's what we're looking at.
You have 4 apps with white backgrounds? Where is that?
Oh, just below the second row of apps there.
Oh, I cannot see that. Are there names?
Calendar and Simple Note and stuff.
Oh, I thought you meant white background. Okay, I thought you meant all white apps.
No,
okay,
no.
I got you. Yeah,
they have logo type stuff, but they are surrounded by white, so they kind of blend in with my white background. And that's a little bit of finagling. But mostly I do actually, like the 4 on the bottom are my most important, and the 4 up at the top are kind of slightly lesser. But anyway, to answer your question, Gil. So what I've got here is there is a website that we will link to that is called like iCustom, or iCustom is like one of the tools, but they have a bunch of tools for making just app. Okay, so you know how if in Safari you hit the little button and you can add to home screen, and it'll sometimes, like if it's a CNN logo, it'll have, or if it's the CNN website, it'll have the CNN like logo as the app.
Yeah, they're home screen Safari bookmarks. The one that I use is iempty.tooliphone.net.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yep.
All of those are just linking to that website then? These aren't forwarding to...
Yeah, so this is, each folder has 9 just home screen Safari link thingies, okay? And I can make that point to like specific apps or whatever, but I didn't. All of these, if you click on them, they just like open Safari to like a new blank tab or whatever. Because I never intend to click on them. This is just basically intended as kind of a cool, artistic little take on the folders. So this is CGP Grey. He's obviously pretty relevant here. His home screen, at least in the past, what he's done a lot of, and I know you've done, is you have folders and you have one app on the first page, and then all the other apps are on like the second page, right? Yeah, so that's what I'm doing here, except I have 0 apps on the first page. So this is just basically meant to look very visually appealing when I unlock the phone. And then also now all the apps that were on the first page are just on the second page.
Okay. So I know that before you only had 9 apps in each folder, so that at any one time you could always see all of your apps.
Yeah.
obviously you've moved away from that, but does that mean that some of these folders now have 3 pages? Like, have you added apps to your phone, or is this purely just for the art of that?
I have not yet. And the reason that I had 9 apps in each folder before and didn't have more, like I actually wanted less apps than was enough to fill the 4 folders with 9 apps, right? So some of my apps were just kind of like semi-useful ones that I kept around to fill the folders. It's not the other way around where I deleted apps so that I only had the folders filled. But so, yeah, part of the nice thing of this solution, I do still have 9 in each folder on the second page, but if I want to delete one now, or I want them in a particular order that doesn't look that great, when you look at them, or if I want to go onto that third page with more than 9 in a particular folder, it just all doesn't really matter too much now. So I like that this is a little bit more freeing with how I can arrange the apps on the second page of each folder.
So obviously this is what it is now. Is the plan to change this to other things, maybe like a seasonal change to different kind of letters or pictures or something like that?
Yeah, well, originally I was playing around. I was like, maybe I'll just put like a meadow or something. But then I was like thinking of WWDC. And you're right to think that, because that was sort of the original inspiration. And I was going to do that, except that I realized that the thing that's coming up in a couple days is not WWDC, right? It's just an Apple event. So I didn't do that, but it is sort of still the style of kind of, how they do that color gradient for a lot of Apple events.
Yeah.
But what I've actually done here is this what would CGP grade do movement.
Yeah.
And you're familiar with that, right?
I've heard it referenced. If there's like a more in-depth backstory, then I'm not positive.
I think so. In the most recent episode of Hello Internet, which people that aren't aware, kind of the podcast that inspired this podcast, Brady was like going to call into a radio show, and then like right before they put him on air, he just kind of thought like, what would CGP grade do? And he hung up. So it's kind of just like thinking like Gray, because Gray's a very organized, kind of productive person. And then on top of that, like in the same episode or the episode right after it, Gray was talking about how he's doing like a project now where he's trying to keep very off of social media and just like distractions through the internet or any kind of like no podcasts, like no Twitter, that kind of stuff. So now in order to get to Twitter and my podcasts and everything, I have to like physically go past a barrier that says, what would Gray do?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's kind of clever in that way, but also it just sort of looks nice, I think, otherwise. So I'm pretty happy with it right now.
Yeah, it does look really nice. But you said that you could have these forward to apps, so that website allows you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, every app just has this like open : I forget the exact wording, but like you can make any app open from one of these things. The only thing is it opens like for a split second in Safari until Safari then opens the app. And I find that super annoying, which is why I'm not going to like, because in theory you could use this method and just link to all these different apps, and you could build your own entire like custom themes with like icon packs and stuff of each app that you use.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do that because there's like overhead in opening an app through the indirect method. So these are just visual.
Yeah, because it would open Safari first and then...
Yeah, there's just a delay, and it might leave the tab open. I'm not sure.
So you mentioned the iPhone event, which happens... It'll probably be a little while by the time this is played, but it's funny because this is going to come out after the iPhone event, but in our time it hasn't happened yet. But anyways... Right. Have you seen the invite? It's very different because you mentioned there's usually some sort of gradient or it's very crazy, lots of apps, but that's not what it looks like this time. It's very plain. Have you seen it?
I did, yeah.
I have no idea what. Usually there's like some kind of hint as to what it'll be about.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any ideas what this could be hinting at?
I was looking around Reddit comments, and the two prevailing theories are this is either just Apple's new campus, which is like I think
Yeah.
fully built for the first time, or this is Qi charging related and the little
Okay.
thingy. So those are the two big ones. You could also say maybe it's completely unrelated to either of those, and this is like, I don't know. Yeah, I want to say it's probably one of those two things.
Yeah. Those were the two things I was thinking, but those are both kind of boring. I was hoping it'd be something more interesting, but
Oh, that's exciting. If the whole event is like stylized to Qi charging, there's some serious wireless charging that might happen here.
oh, you're saying the Apple Power Mat might actually launch this time.
Yeah, or they might hint at it and then not
Jeez.
launch it for another year.
Man, I've been waiting so long for that thing.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's elegant. I'll give it to them. It also kind of matches the like what we think they're introducing, maybe a gold iPhone X and stuff like that. So the gold
Oh, yeah.
kind of, I like it. They do a good job with their like, especially the event branding.
Yeah. I mean, the iPhone 10 was like, at least in my opinion, such a huge leap. It's by far my favorite like difference in iPhone between the previous generation I had and this one. Like, this is by far the biggest leap, I feel like, and I love the iPhone 10 a lot. So I'm not expecting too much out of this event. If anything, I would just like, I guess, a wider angle on the face, on Face ID, and then maybe like a wide angle lens would be nice on the camera. But aside from that, I don't really have any big wants.
Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on it because it'll have happened by the time this is released. But I'm excited just about where are we going to go with Apple Watch. That's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah.
And then where are we going to go? No, I think I'm pretty excited because it's not clear what they're going to do with this whole iPhone 10 versus the other, like how many iPhones are they even going to release and what are they going to be like? Are they doing an update to the SE? That's a whole cluster of confusion. And then on top of that, it looks like Apple Watch might end up with maybe a design change, maybe, I don't know.
So I know you were a big fan of the SE. So if there's an SE with edge-to-edge glass, will you upgrade?
Honest to God, Gil, I'm too in love with exactly, like, I love every product in my life right now. My iPhone SE, just everything is right. I like that it's like flat angles on the side and I can stand it up on things, and it's just a good size phone and screen and easy to hold. And I'll be very tempted by a new iPhone SE, but at the same time, I might desperately cling to this exact phone design until it is either no longer made or they no longer like support the software.
Yeah. Okay. I can respect that. The iPhone 10 is just like so great though. So maybe one day I can talk you into it.
Like, it's pretty great. I'll give you that. But it does lose some things that I just love about the SE and is $1,000. So I'm like, I don't really. The things, the Face ID is cool, but I don't need it. I don't really need the Force Touch thing. Like, SE is what actually makes sense to me. And if it was the same exact price, I would have been so tempted and gotten an iPhone 10, and I'd probably like it a lot too. But I'm just so very happy with the affordable and just all around beautiful iPhone SE.
Yeah. So, because this event will have happened already, do we want to move on to something else?
Yeah, I want to bring one more thing to my home screen here. A change has been, so Safari has left the home screen because I'll reach for Safari and search like random things that I just don't need to search. So I include it in kind of things that can distract me, and you'll notice that like everything that remains here is like pretty undistractable. You've got messages in phone, which I really don't text a lot, and it's just like you need quick access to those. Calendar, simple note, and things on the bottom left is productive. Maps is just getting places. Photos I like to have quick access to. But the newcomer, which is actually we talked about in an older episode, but I've brought it back, is this app called Done. and
Okay.
it is just very well designed and lets me like log, just basically keep track of streaks, and you can make little notes on each day and stuff like that. But basically, just I want to keep streaks for did I eat like a healthy meal today? Did I like actually interact with people today? Just like really basic stuff, nothing advanced, but I do want to have like a feedback system for some useful habits or like productive, good habits to have.
So does it? I assume that it does, but does it like send you a push notification and ask you these things so that you make sure you're actually filling it out too?
It's fantastic. You can set general notifications through it that are like not tied to one task, or you can be notifications on each task. It has like a really great walkthrough. It's so well designed. There are so many little features packed into this thing that I love. And I don't use the notifications and I don't use a lot of the features, but it works really well. And I feel like it has the potential to work really well for like a lot of people.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that and me being interested in it, but I haven't tried it yet. Maybe that can replace my Twitter app.
Yeah, and the guy, if you don't like that one, the guy that makes Done has like 5 others that are like similar designs enough that you can tell like clearly he just kind of copied the code, but they're also slightly different. So if you like, you can even pick which app you like the most. Like there's one that's called Last, I think, and so it's more designed to help you like quit things and like your last cigarette or whatever. So there's even subtle variations, and you can like pick your favorite. And so I really, really like that app.
Yeah, I'm going to give that a try because I think there are some things that I would like to track a little bit better. But I do have a suggestion.
What's up?
So I like what you have, obviously, with the what would Gray do. But what would be cool is if you just put a white icon in there so that you had basically invisible folders, and it looked like you just had like a row of icons at the top and a row of icons at the bottom, and then you could have 4 invisible folders under that.
I don't know if I followed that. You're
So
saying have a gap at the top, you mean?
it could be a gap at the top, or you move your second row to the first row, and instead of having what would Gray do in those 4 folders, W, W, Gray, D, just have like a white icon so that it blends into the background, and it looks like nothing is there, but you could tap there and the folder will open.
Oh, okay. So it could be like stealth folders. I would want to swap it because iPhone SE not really like big enough that I need the folders to not, or the icons to not be, like I can reach the top. So I want something on the top. But if I switched them, not only could I get rid of my little black line, because the whole point of that is if they don't have names, there's a weird awkward space. But then I could have just the 4 icons and then hidden folders.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's so tempting. I worked really hard on this, so I'm going to stick with it for a while probably. But this was like a good couple hours in Photoshop and stuff.
Yeah. Next time, whenever you're looking for something new.
Yeah, that's very tempting because it would be very low key, even more like minimal. Did you get a chance to watch Elon talk to Joe Rogan?
I did.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's touch on that really quickly.
Okay. Yeah, it's all kind of stuff I've heard Elon say before. I think Joe Rogan's a great like interviewer though. He just like makes it fun. And I guess we can't really talk about it without talking about Elon Musk smoking weed, which apparently everybody's angry about. But I mean, I guess who cares? I mean, it's in California and it's legal. And
is it legal in California? I missed something.
Yeah, it's legal in California.
But it like okay, let's just clarify. Technically, like it is allowed by the state, but the federal government still doesn't allow it, right? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know the specifics around that. But yeah, it's not a federal law that it's legal. It's just, I guess, I'm pretty sure it's just that states choose not to enforce it.
Yeah, which seems like, oh man, this just goes back to like the fact that laws, it's just whatever people like enforce. I always think there's this full book of laws written down somewhere that have all the little details on like, oh, it is illegal to do a U-turn on roads unless like there's a tree on the road, but they don't have that law. They don't have a law that says that if there's a tree you could do the U-turn. It's just like obvious common sense.
Yeah. Well, really all we have is the Constitution, and then laws are just kind of interpretations of different parts of the Constitution. So obviously nowhere in the Constitution does it say you cannot smoke weed. But, you know, so it's not a federal law, but it's, and I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I do know that, like, it's legal in a lot more places, and it's kind of like a nice system for some things because it does give states control and, like, it allows for change. I mean, the prohibition, like, alcohol was legal for a long time. And what if it were, you know, what if that never, you know, became legal again? I mean, I don't really know what I'm saying right now. All I'm saying is that it seems like a good system. And if it's, you know, if enough, it's all myth anyways. Like, it's all in our heads that we all choose to believe and abide by this thing. So it's really just what ideas do more people agree with and choose to follow, and having some system for that to change as times change, I think it's good.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so again, I don't, like, this is this thing where low bandwidth and people, like, you can't write out a full paragraph, and if you do, like, no one will read it. So what ends up happening is the headline is like, Elon smokes weed live, like, right? And so then everybody's like, oh, okay, well, that's what happened, and was it somewhere legal? I don't know. And how much did he smoke? I don't know. And what it turns out to be is it was like half of a little puff that he probably didn't really even inhale, and it was in a place where it was allowed to be done. So
and Joe Rogan, like, asked him about it, and he was like, yeah, I never smoke and I don't like it. So it's like, I don't know, like, it's legal. He did it one time because he's on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he even said afterwards, like, I don't like it. It makes me unproductive. So it's not like he's like a big pothead either. So why does anybody care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the only other thing I have about it was a podcast. The discussion they had, like, it was a good recap, I guess. And if people don't know Elon, which probably is most of Joe Rogan's audience, probably helpful. But I didn't really like it that very much, because it just felt like Joe, while he's like chill and kind of a cool guy to talk with, he just didn't have a great grasp of like who Elon even is, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean by, I've heard Elon say all these things before, so there wasn't really anything new in there for me. So maybe it's like a good, just like distilled, what does Elon think about, for people that don't already know him. But like, there was even a point where Elon Musk was talking about like electric planes and like how there's less air resistance the higher you go, and like it wasn't like too complicated, but Joe Rogan was just like, I'm too stupid to understand what you're talking about right now. Like, I'm too stupid for this conversation.
I didn't take notes on all of the moments, but I remember there was one time where he suggested, why don't cars have magnetic like bumpers or whatever? Like, I forget.
Well, I think it was something like, why aren't there like magnets on the ground that are like levitating cars? It's like, that would be.
And well, you know, he was big into his magnets, because one was like, why don't we make hover cars? Which, like, okay, fine. And the Hyperloop concepts do a lot of times use the magnets, and they talked about that some. But yeah, his thing about the magnetic bumpers, and I don't remember where I've seen this. I think it was somewhere on Reddit, but it was like a little Tumblr post about someone that had that same idea, and someone in the comments was like, yeah, now somebody rear ends you or like comes up behind you and it pushes you out into traffic, you can get the T-bone, or you get T-bone, you know, to hell and back because another car like runs into your side.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh man, it did not come off as like a very like really quality kind of response to what Elon was saying. And then the other moment was, I think at one point he called Spider-Man he referred to Spider-Man in Gotham. And I was just, again, like, ugh. Like, I don't care that much, and I guess it's fine, but Like you don't. It
Yeah.
sounds like you don't know what you're talking about, Joe.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I do tend to enjoy Joe Rogan's interviews, but I don't know. Like you said, he didn't really know what he was talking about for like what I was wanting from a almost 3 hour Elon Musk interview.
Yeah. And the other thing, so I wouldn't even probably recommend this as like an introduction to Elon type thing because for whatever reason they talked about it, like he was bleak as heck. Like some of those moments in there were like, I want to make a horror film that starts off with Elon like warning of the dangers of AI and then cuts to like the post-apocalyptic AI world, like Terminator situation.
Yeah. The one thing that I hadn't heard him say before is that he said that which is like, I don't know, but he said that Neuralink is going to announce something soon that's like orders of magnitude better than anybody else thought was possible. Have you heard him mention something like that before?
No, that is probably the first time that has ever been talked about, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we got a little insight on is pretty much confirmation that Tesla is at some point going to make a either air conditioner or like air conditioning control unit thingy, like a Nest equivalent maybe.
Yeah, I heard him say that he had ideas. He didn't. I don't know. Maybe just to me, it didn't seem like he was going to.
Oh, did you not? I mean, so like Elon smiles a lot in that part, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, we definitely have a thing like that we're working on.
Okay. Huh.
Which is not like official confirmation because he kind of denies it technically, but I mean, if you just look at the discussion, I think it's pretty clear, and it's not even a huge product. Like, oh, they're gonna make a Nest type device, big deal, but
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
I mean, I guess like it doesn't really fit in like the product lineup of like world-changing devices that Elon Musk typically works on, but he's also the kind of guy that just like has lots of ideas, and maybe this is just one that particularly scratched some itch that he's like, you guys are doing it all wrong. I know it's small, but there's a better way to do an air conditioner. So I guess I could see them doing that.
Well, I think it's just they were like, oh, okay, we'll make electric cars to reduce, oil use. Oh, but wait, people will then charge them, using what ultimately is energy from an oil, oil plant or whatever. So okay, we're gonna make the houses solar so that they get the car charged by solar energy from the house. And now he's like, okay, great, we did all that, but now the house can't actually power all of the energy needs because air conditioning is so inefficient. So it's like the last piece of the puzzle before like the typical modern home can fully power the car, and just everything is powered by the sun basically.
Yeah. I mean, I guess heat and dishwashers and all those other things aren't as big of a power draw as air conditioning. I don't know like the ratios of what appliances take up how much power. So maybe I'm just not understanding how much power air conditioners actually take up.
I mean, that's what he made it seem like. I don't know about heat. Heat might be a big one too, and maybe he's kind of like counting that in air conditioning, but
Yeah.
I definitely would believe that that's like by far the most kind of energy intensive thing in a house.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to own a house just for the fact that I can add an electric, a Tesla roof, some Tesla power packs, park the Tesla, and then maybe even now a Tesla air conditioning.
Yeah. It's an exciting future.
They're everywhere around here. Like, not Tesla air conditionings, but Tesla. Like the Model 3 is like everywhere, and it's been very surprising. It's like it's getting more and more popular, and I know that they're caught up on production, so maybe that's everywhere now. People are just able to buy them and get them.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been seeing them a whole lot more.
Yeah, they're making their way out, I think.
But you mentioned this wouldn't be a good primer to kind of what Elon Musk is about, and I was just looking it up. So he did an interview on Raycode a few years ago, which I particularly liked a lot. Do you have a recommendation for intro to Elon Musk?
It all kind of blurs together. I have watched this Recode one. Actually, so Wait But Why is a blog site that actually like they just explain stuff in super long form articles. And then Elon reached out to the guy that runs it and was like, "Hey, make a 3-part series." And it's basically almost like a book length. And that is like a fantastic discussion of like Elon. And then now there's even like 2 or 3 more parts about Elon, kind of the way he thinks, and Neuralink, and something else. So that would be my recommendation. Just read that, and I think that gets you in the ballpark of how he thinks, what he's about, and all his companies.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, definitely recommend those. Very long. It'll take a while, but it's worth it.
Oh, I was thinking about something. So in that interview, he talks a lot about AI, and you know, we've said it all kind of before on other episodes. One of the like famous examples from, there's a book called Superintelligence, which is really popular in the world of kind of dystopian AI futures. An example in that book is kind of how once we've created AI, you know, it'll start living lifetimes like every second, and it'll get exponentially smarter, and it'll so quickly just be like comparing us to like a monkey, and that like when it won't destroy us on purpose, but it'll just destroy us because it has some other agenda. And the famous example in that book is kind of if you're building a building or building a road and you're digging up the ground, you don't care about the worms and the bugs that you're killing in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I was thinking about that more, and that's a great like way to illustrate how much smarter they'll be. And maybe I'm still, you know, it's impossible to really understand and grasp how intelligent they'll actually be. But yeah, we don't care about like the worms and the bugs that we're digging up, but there is a point where we do care, right? So especially now, you know, we've been, you know, the agricultural revolution was maybe 10,000 years ago or whatever. And that's when we really started like onto the path of where we are now. And only in the past like few hundred years have we been able to live comfortably enough to start focusing on other things, like art, or for example, there are lots more people eating vegan or vegetarian. And this kind of like idea around not harming animals is like becoming more and more of a thing now that we're able to, you know, get to that point. So I guess the point of me saying all of that is there is a point in which we do care. We do care about the chickens and the cows and obviously the dogs and the cats. So is that part of intelligence, or is that part of progress? Like having empathy with other animals and trying not to kind of kill them so much, and like kind of giving them their space. And if an AI is going to live, you know, lifetimes and lifetimes every second, obviously they might reach that level of like morality much quicker. Is morality part of evolution and part of, I guess, progress and some sort of intelligence? Or am I just like completely wrong and they're going to just destroy us? I don't know. I feel like it's more up in the air. It could be more up in the air. I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Oh, man. I think, so first off, I put this sort of in the realm of like personally, I have no clue. And sometimes I feel like that and I research it and I feel like I have a better understanding. But I don't know that like anyone can understand this to the point that they can make a decent like conclusion about it.
Well, yeah.
And if they can, it's this problem again with it's like, how do you separate the people that think they know what they're talking about from the people that really do? And, you know, if it turns out that they were right, maybe they were just lucky. So it's definitely, I'm just going to preface all this with, I don't know. And it's going to be fun. And hopefully we get to, maybe we get to this point. I don't even know if I want to say hopefully, because it could be terrible. But it would be interesting to figure out kind of how this whole story arc goes here.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I have no idea either. It's there are so many variables that's impossible for anybody to predict in any meaningful way. And if anybody does get it right, it's just luck, because every scenario was somebody said. But it's still a fun, like, kind of thought experiment. And just thinking about kind of the trajectory of humans might an artificial intelligence kind of take the same path.
I think it's very possible that it wouldn't. And I think that humans developed this kind of care for other creatures because, like, babies and all kinds of evolution things happened where, the ones that took care of their babies were the race of, were the civilizations that survived, right? And the ones that didn't take care of babies, they died and their babies died, and that was the end of them. So there's a little bit of like a biological component that I don't think necessarily an artificial intelligence would share, depending on how it's created. If it is basically a copy of a human brain, it might have some of this. If it is just generated sort of, by trial and error kind of thing, which is sort of the way that I lean, I don't know that it necessarily would have any of that. And I could just definitely see an artificial intelligence that says, so the example is we tell something to make paper clips, and it goes on this like journey and quest to just turn the universe into paper clips. Like, it goes overboard.
Yeah.
And so I could see an intelligence that, like, the goal of create paper clips is independent of that intelligence that enables it to execute on making paper clips. And so basically I feel like it's possible, like very possible, that the intelligence could have no ability or desire to affect the goal to, say, create paper clips as fast and as plentiful as possible, but keep cute animals or like living things alive. Like, I feel like it's possible that the intelligent like portion of it would just not want to or not be able to change the goal so that it could be like what we would consider like moral or civilized or anything like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think mortality has a big influence on how we make decisions, on how we like treat other things. I don't know. I was just thinking more about it, and that kind of popped in my head.
It's very possible that, basically what you said could be right, though. And this comes back to this Elon interview where he's like, I know, I tried to warn them and they wouldn't listen. Like, it sounds, and this is what Joe Rogan said, like straight out of a horror film.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know. And it's a little bit of a gamble. And that's really what Elon's saying, where he's just like, let's not take this risk. Like, this is just a dumb bet to just develop artificial intelligence ruthlessly and hope that it kind of works out.
Yeah. At the very least, it's like he even mentioned this, but the immediate use for artificial intelligence is going to be as a weapon. And we're just going to destroy ourselves at that point before it even gets to the point where artificial intelligence needs to do anything.
Yeah. It's a big thing. I don't know what else to say on it. Big topic.
Here in we're never gonna die because of science. So here in like 1,000 years, we'll do follow up and see how it goes.
Yeah. By the time this episode is out, we'll have the singularity. So on the next episode, this is like the Apple event. I'm sure that's what they're announcing.
Oh, actually, he did mention one thing about I believe he was like, well, if your biological self dies, you can just upload into a new body. And I think this is something that Gray has touched on, and it's in Black Mirror. But do you agree with that? Because I feel like basically I don't think that that's going to be possible because that's going to be a new person. So like, unless you're like taking out the brain, I guess, and putting it into a new body, then maybe. But if you're copying the brain and uploading it to a new body, that copy will have all of your memories and ambitions and whatever, but it won't be you. It'll be a copy of you, and then the old you will still die and not be around. So I don't think it's simple as just kind of like uploading into a new body.
I like to look at this optimistically. We have two options here. Number one is that there is some kind of intrinsic specialness of a single person, which is sort of what you're describing, where somehow there's something that makes us us, and to copy it into a computer does not make it a copy of us or whatever.
That's not necessarily what I'm saying. I think, so for example, say my brain is uploaded into a computer. It's not removed from my brain. It's just uploaded into the computer. And then say the computer version of me goes on, lives its own life. I go on, live my own life. Those are now two different,
Yeah.
From that point on, it's then it's like I have forked, and then one fork, is Bitcoin Cash doing its own thing, and the other is Bitcoin, the original, still in the body.
Yeah. But you're still saying that these are two different things, right? I mean, that's your...
Right. Yeah. It's two different things because... And then you could copy me again and again and again, and maybe there's 10 gills, and they're all living their own lives that have the same memories from before the point that they were duplicated, but they're still different. I'm not saying they're different because they're not biological. They're different because it's just a copy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to still... Again, I think we talked last episode or a couple episodes ago where it might... actually not be possible to do that, and we talked about it before, so we'll leave it there. Quantum mechanics probably relates to it, but anyway, let's say it's possible because I feel like it's probably possible. Two options, right? Either, as you describe, there's something, it's not the same person, right? It's multiple copies of you or whatever, and I mean, no matter how you look at it here, you have to be saying that intrinsically you are something that cannot be copied, right? Which is very possible. I leave that open to all kinds of possibilities. I mean, this is just back to we know so much less than we think we know. Sure, this is how it seems like science works, but man, it's just based on observations that we made and things that happen to be happening. And there's just so many possibilities with simulations and multiverse theory where we could be so completely wrong. So I'm just very open to being incredibly wrong here, and it's very possible that there is something intrinsic about an individual person, and if you copy them, that is essentially a different person. And in that case, yeah, I mean, if you use the transponder analogy like people like to, where it's, or not transponder, what is it called? Transporter, the teleporter thing in Star Trek?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do that, yeah, the thing that was you is now quote dead, and now there's a new thing that is a separate entity. And the other possibility is that you are not unique, and just to copy your brain state is a version of you, and that is just kind of it's so hard to talk about these things. We don't have words for these things, but it's your consciousness is just kind of a side effect of all of the little atoms and protons and things working together in your brain or whatever. And in that case, that sounds pretty bleak. But it means that you don't really have, you're almost not alive, right? You're almost, you in this case, you're not something special and you can be replicated. And so to die or to live doesn't really mean a lot, in my opinion, in that particular situation. And for example, so say the universe goes on for 1 billion more years or whatever, there's all kinds of chances that exact same state of mind and brain and everything is going to be replicated on some other planet or in a simulation or just through random chance of the universe and things. It's if you believe what I just kind of described, where your mind is just made up of a state of atoms or whatever, even if you die, you can spontaneously come into living again just because all that makes up you is just the arrangement of these atoms. So basically what I'm saying is, if you are intrinsically special and that you cannot be copied, then cool. That's basically the idea of a soul, and people like that option, right? And if you're not copyable, or I mean, if you are copyable, and it's just basically, bits on a microchip and you're just computer memory essentially, that's pretty great too, because it means that we're not really what we think we are, and that death is kind of not what it seems to be, and that we could potentially be alive again just through the complete longevity and complexity of the universe. Whew.
Yeah.
Is that kind of, we can cut that part.
No, yeah, all of that makes sense. And I think I even agree with all of that. I don't think that we're unique, and I don't think that we're special in some way just because we're human and have evolved the way that we've evolved. So have you heard of FOMO 3D?
No. Nope. No.
Okay. So I'm like super into all this cryptocurrency stuff, and there is something built on Ethereum, an app, I guess, built on Ethereum called FOMO 3D. And it was kind of an idea that we talked about in one of the earlier episodes, and I forget what the idea was exactly, but it was something along the lines of have a button that you press, and when you press the button, it starts some timer. Maybe you have to pay to press the button, and then whoever presses the button when the or whoever is paid last when the timer hits 0 gets all the money. So
Right.
basically, that's what this is.
Oh, people made it a thing?
Yeah. So basically, what you do is you pay with Ethereum, and every time somebody pays,
I get the name now. This makes sense.
right? Yeah. So every time somebody pays, the counter is increased by 30 seconds, and it hits a max of 24 hours. So the highest this timer can get is 24 hours, and once it hits that, if nobody pays any money for 24 hours, whoever paid last gets all of the money. So I don't know how long this has been going on, but somebody won.
Oh.
They won 5.5 thousand Ethereum, which at the time was $3 million. And at like all-time high, it would have been around $8 million. So round 2 is going on right now. I have not played it. I'm not going to. But it's still, like, it's something that we kind of talked about. And it's actually a thing, and somebody won. So I thought that was really cool.
This is awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing right there. I think we originally talked about it like being for charity or something, but is essentially the button thing that Reddit did, and then they applied did we talk about it being crypto? I don't know if we necessarily said it was cryptocurrency based.
No,
but crypto
we
helps
didn't
a
say
lot.
crypto. Yeah.
And what is it, FOMO?
It's called FOMO 3D. And then to actually play, it's on exitscam.me, which is kind of a funny domain to put it on. But
do they take a chunk of it then for themselves, like the people that organize this?
that I don't know. I haven't seen anywhere that they do, but I would imagine they take something.
We could be millionaires.
Right, yeah. So we just need to dump money into this until we win, especially now that somebody's won and everybody's going to be doing it.
No, I mean, this could have been our idea and we could be millionaires.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of parallel thinking. It's just they actually acted on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't too, like, obscure of an idea. It's just what Reddit did, but you make it cost something and you... Yeah. I'm really excited that happened and is a thing, though. That's really cool. That's an interesting use of cryptocurrency that I think this is a true case where it would have been complicated, like really complicated to do this with traditional currency, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, just to touch on the reasons, you got to, like, if people have different currencies, you got to deal with PayPal, and if PayPal doesn't like what you're doing, they cut you off. So just being Ethereum is, like, this is a really awesome use of the technology, so I like that.
PayPal or whoever the payment processor is takes, 3%. So there's like kind of this,
too.
But yeah, really cool.
A little bit of a, this is fun, so I'm going to put it out there. There is a dark web website it's just basically like hire an assassin. Have you heard of this?
Like actually hire an assassin?
Well, it claims to be actually hiring an assassin, and I think they get a lot of actual customers. But what they really are is just a small group of European, I think, cryptocurrency developers, and when someone pays them to kill someone, they just forward the information to the police and keep the Bitcoin.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
You know what? Like, it's actually like a civil good. Like, they're doing good for the community, and I don't think it's technically like illegal. Maybe it is technically. I don't know.
Well, we talked about that before too. I guess we've already talked about everything, but like if you were outside of the bank with a gun and the perfect plans to rob the bank, is that a crime yet? Like if somebody pays you to murder somebody and you haven't done it yet, is that not illegal?
Oh no, I mean the people that are running this fake assassin website, and I
know that they don't intend to do it, but like the facts up until that point are the same whether or not they've intended to actually kill that person.
We'll see. The key here is I think that they are in Europe, but also they're like crypto people, and I think they're just completely anonymous, and so it doesn't even matter if it's illegal. But
Yeah.
It would be interesting to know. I don't know, but it's definitely illegal on the part of the people hiring the assassins, unless
Well,
they're
yeah,
from
yeah,
some really messed up country. But
yeah. Because like their first customer, nobody knew that they were doing that, so there was no precedent for like they're not actually killing people.
well, like,
So
like, what would your defense be for having sent the amount requested for an assassin to an assassin website,
well,
even
that
if you
person,
knew,
yeah.
even if
Well,
you
the
knew
person.
that they were fake?
Oh yeah,
Like, if you do that, obviously, all right, you just threw like several $1,000s to this website with no chance of getting it back. Clearly, you like had a serious intent to hire an assassin.
yeah. Well, the person hiring it has no defense. I'm just wondering how in the clear actually are the people that are keeping the money, even if they are
Probably.
doing something good.
This is back to the law thing. It's like, you think we have a law for this? We don't, because cryptocurrency is treated differently than regular money, and that factors in. And
Yeah.
it's all down to like how good your lawyer is and the precedents in the court, and just random history and how the court cases went, and they weren't, thinking all that forward to like nobody that won or lost these court cases, and the lawyers that fought them, and the judges and the juries that decided them at the time, was thinking about cryptocurrency because it didn't exist when they did it, right? So it's like a whole new
Yeah.
world now, and we base it on the precedent of a court case that, they didn't have any insight on the future, and so it's just up in the air. Who knows? Is it legal? I don't know. It depends on if the judge says it was or if the jury convicts you.
Yeah. But it's another business plan for us to possibly do.
Yeah. I found out not too long ago that, so here's a hypothetical for you. If you have a lawn, which I don't, but if you did, and you say you carve with a chainsaw like a Mickey Mouse statue thingy and display it in your own lawn, and you're not selling it to anyone, and it's just for fun. Do you know that like you're not allowed to do that?
You're not allowed to have a self-carved Mickey Mouse in your lawn?
No. And this
Is that like a copyright thing?
I think it's a copyright thing, and it kind of comes down to like, is Disney going to be that much of a jerk about it and, file a lawsuit and mandatory make you remove your Mickey Mouse carving? No, they're like, cool, that promotes our brand, and you're not selling it, so it's like, it's fine. And they're not just hunting every tiny person that does this or whatever. But technically, this is not allowed, as far as I understand anyway, in the US. It's just kind of interesting because it seems so harmless, but actually, technically, if you wanted to kind of pursue that, they could. And legally, I think they'd be in the clear.
Huh. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, even so, there's a guy right now, and I've had an order for this guy for like 7 months, so I might cancel it. But he makes SpaceX rockets, like models, 3D printed. It's Buzz models or something, and he's way backlogged. But he doesn't put the SpaceX logos on them because that's like an obvious infringement of copyright. And so I think he like includes the paper, and you can print your own, and you can put them on when you get them as like a legal loophole thing.
Okay.
But
like not a flamethrower.
Yeah, kind of. But the thing with the models is that technically SpaceX owns design of the models, right? Like they designed the rocket and they own the design of just the shape of the rocket. So what he's doing is technically not allowed, but he's like charging like just at cost to make them, and he's like international, and it would be so much of a pain in the butt to shut him down, and he's doing a cool thing, so like SpaceX doesn't care, but technically he's not allowed to.
Yeah. Well, that's like, I don't know, that kind of hits on like everything is all like in our heads. Like nothing is real except like laws of gravity, like things outside of our mind, but like laws, money, all these different ideas don't exist. And it's just down to like what the most people think or who can convince the most people. So I feel like if you had one lawyer, you would lose that. If you had another lawyer, you would win that. And like, how different does a model have to be? Like, does it have to be 90% different? Like it's 100% different. That's, it's a model of Mickey Mouse, and that's Tesla trying to say that's a rocket. But is that 1% different, is that different enough? Like there's like somewhere in the middle of that spectrum where it's okay to do.
Versus, like a generic.
So, right. So somewhere in that spectrum, it is okay, and it's all just kind of like who has the better lawyer and who can convince the more people that your side is right.
Yeah, just everything is a gray zone. Like we were discussing philosophical type issues, legal. Man, it's nice to be, like a kid and relatively simple and just black and white. So this is in the topic of some ideas that I've had recently. And I think I texted you, Gil, about like my holy grail of an idea here.
I don't remember what it was, but...
Well, I didn't tell you, but I did.
Oh, okay.
There was something like, I got an idea for next time.
Okay, I do remember that.
And so, this is a bit goofy, but I am shocked to announce that I can't find an existing example of it on the internet. Are you ready, Gil?
Okay.
It is a hot dog, but that like goes in a total circle, and is just like a circle of hot dog.
So like a hot dog donut?
Yeah. So it's a bun that would, like connect in a complete circle, and the hot dog. And you could totally do this, Gil. You could totally do this. And it's stupid, but I really think that people would love it.
I'm trying to imagine what this would look like.
It would have to be a certain size to like allow for the bending of the hot dog and not break the hot dog.
Right. It'd be pretty large too, because then you've got to fit the bun, so that changes like the space in the middle. Like the hot dog has to be large enough to also fit the bun in the middle.
I think it'd be like a small or medium pizza size radius, maybe.
Yeah. Or it'd be cool to do like a circle like corn dog.
Oh, but those are on a stick usually. How you gonna eat that?
Just wear it as like a necklace.
I like where this is going, Gil. Let's just become carnies.
There you go. I mean, you can sell anything at some like state fair in Kentucky.
I truly, honestly, I don't know where, maybe carnivals or whatever, but someone would buy an infinite loop of a hot dog. And probably, like a lot of other foods.
So isn't like a hot dog just made from like it's tied off or whatever because it's like made from the intestines of the pig? So there will be a seam, right?
There'd be maybe a seam, but okay. I bet with the technology that we have in 2018, you could make the seam non-existent or minimal. But even if there's a seam, that's fine.
Pause all research on space travel and artificial intelligence, and let's figure out this circle hot dog seam first.
I mean, it's got to be possible. We have the technology.
Yeah. What made you think of that?
My girlfriend has a plate that has like the design on the like outer lip of the plate is like a yellow circle and then a like hot dog colored circle. And so it looks like an infinite hot dog. And I was like, my God, why haven't we done this as a human species?
Yeah. It would only be obviously the infinite circle for the first bite. And then from there, it's just a regular long hot dog.
Yeah. Then it's just a long hot dog with like a curve in it. But
yeah,
I think the novelty would be well received.
Yeah. I'd buy that once.
Oh, I would buy, well, yeah, probably one. It's like, have you seen these Dragon Breath kiosk things? They're everywhere now.
No. Dragon Breath? I don't even know what that is. It's
pretty much a big piece of like cereal, like Captain Crunch. Like the sugary kind of like, like the in Trix or whatever, they got the sweetened colored cereal piece.
Just like regular cereal?
Well, it's
like
not
a Cheerio.
It's like it's like one of those like Trix, Trix cereal.
I can't.
Come on, Gil.
I can't really picture. Let me look it up.
There's just like The
I
colorful
know.
parts and tricks are just basically spheres of like kind of sugar grain,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, that, but it's larger. It's like kind of the size of a like popcorn chicken piece or something.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it's like liquid nitrogen dipped. So it's like all steamy, and when you eat one, kind of you can like breathe the steam, I guess.
You breathe the steam.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's dipped in liquid nitrogen, so it's all like smoking when they serve it to you in the cup,
Oh,
and then
okay.
when you eat one, you get like kind of the not steam, but it's like
Oh, I
cold, so
gotcha,
that
gotcha,
it's
gotcha.
yeah,
I get what you're saying. Okay, dragon's breath. It's okay. So you bite into it, it releases the gas, and you can blow that out.
yeah. It's just like it's basically cold cereal, but it's
Okay.
marketed in a really fun way, and it's like for one, I don't know if some patent expired that made this possible, but I feel like you could have done this 40 years ago. And it's just surprising to see this sort of a business step in. And you've got things like escape rooms and these axe throwing places. And it's just interesting, these businesses that totally could have been things a long, long time ago. Nothing new has happened. But now they're like viable and spreading, and like every city has one.
Yeah. I mean, I think. I mean, maybe this is completely off too, but I wonder if that's like going more at like the macro scale of like how much free time do we actually have, and as technology evolves, we'll have more and more free time. So maybe it's only really become viable for a business like that to survive because we've finally hit that cross of like, wealthy enough country mixed with more and more
Hmm.
free time.
Yeah, that's a big question in my head is like, and this applies kind of to memes too, right? Where I'm like, could this have been a thing earlier? And I don't remember if we discussed on here before, but like, the Despicable Me meme where it's Gru going through his master plan on like a little easel, and the last thing is like, I sit on the toilet and he looks at it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a meme where they change it so that it says something else, and like it's a meme, right? But like, it was probably 6 years or something of that footage existing before it became a meme. And it's like, could I have made this in 2000 and whenever, like 1 year after Despicable Me came out, and it have been successful? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's the same case with these like, or like the trampoline parks or the like skydiving type places. Largely, I think those are filling a gap from movie theaters, and like bowling alleys and stuff are kind of not as cool. So you need like something to go out to. Um, but the
Yeah.
case with memes too, and another really good one. Have you heard of the Ye meme?
E?
Yeah, just like YE.
No.
It is so. It's this incredibly obscure footage of like an Italian kids cartoon with dinosaurs, and somebody remixed it to have like a song sort of thing. It's goofy and dumb, but it's actually really entertaining. And it has been around, like it has been on YouTube. The exact thing that is now like ridiculously popular and millions of views has been on YouTube since like 2012 or 2010 or something, and it just sat in obscurity for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the whole world of memes is like, sometimes I really get sucked into it and just like, so do you watch PewDiePie at all?
Not really, no.
Well, he's got like 4 different shows reviewing memes, but it's really interesting because he gets into like, they're all called something different, but they're essentially the same thing. But sometimes they'll get into like kind of the evolution of how it became, how it got to where it is. And it's always fascinating to me, like how these things evolve, become like so popular that you see it everywhere, then they're dead all within like a 3-day life cycle.
Yeah, that's just one of my greatest questions is do these things, they do have like their moment in the sun, but is it fixed in time that it couldn't have worked any other way, and maybe just by random chance some random famous person found it and retweeted it and then it caught on, or like is it some kind of convoluted way that this thing became really popular, or was it always destined to, and it was just a matter of time, and I could have posted it earlier and it would have been a meme earlier, or is there some kind of special time period where this thing would have only worked? And again, it's the same with these businesses. Could we have done the dragon's breath or the axe throwing 20 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah. It's also like the internet's like not even 30 years old, really, in like the capacity that we use it not even that we use it now, but like it's really only like almost 30 years old. And like, have we just hit the evolution of the internet now where like, social media has gotten to a point where like going to an axe throwing place is like cool to post. So more people are doing it purely for that reason.
That's true. Social media probably is a component in that. I bet it's in actual business plans. I would like to read one of their business plans.
Yeah.
How about, how there's sketch apps and stuff? I mean, just iPad Pro and you sketch.
Yeah.
Is there an app that has the feature that if, how like sketching is like you make a lot of little lines and like kind of it looks like one line?
Yeah.
I would just really love an app that recognizes that and turns all of the little small lines into like one average line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So basically what you would typically do on the iPad or on your Mac, you would sketch all the little lines to get it right. Then you would create a new layer and you would create the final line that you want it to actually look like. Kind of tracing your original line. But you're saying just cut that whole step out and just guess.
I'm saying it would just be like a smart feature where it recognizes, like the average of all these little lines is this line. So then like, you just sketch, and then once you stop for a second, it recognizes you stopped, and then it just like auto turns it into one solid, smooth vector line.
Yeah.
I just think that'd be very useful. And maybe they do that because I don't have a lot of experience with those apps, but it strikes me as not immediately obvious, and I feel like that would be a really cool thing.
Yeah. Something that I can never understand is why is it hard? Like, why is it not easier to turn like JPEGs into vector images? And maybe this is also a thing, but if I could have a very simple image of our logo, for example, say we took that as a JPEG and we want to make it a vector so that we could scale it to any size.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are no gradients. They're all flat colors, very hard lines between the colors. Can you not take the average pixel and just like create a line out of that and then fill in the colors? Is that something that you've ever seen exist? Because I've looked for it before and I cannot find it.
There are some online tools that try to do that, but the like ultimate version of this is Adobe Illustrator's image trace feature. Do you know about that?
I've seen where like you can manually trace the image. Are you saying it can do that automatically?
Yeah, no, it's just a button. But yeah, so it has some settings, and you like the thing is pixels aren't super approximate, and it just doesn't translate well on the tiny pixel level, so that it's not going to be like if you took a PNG of our logo and put it into Illustrator and just hit the image trace button, it probably would have some like slightly wrong angles. I mean, it would look fine and you could probably just roll with it, but technically it would be imperfect. And so there are some little settings that you can screw with to try to get it absolutely perfect. But then, yeah, I think in most cases you will have to like manually do minor changes to make it like exactly back to our original vector logo.
Okay.
But they do a pretty decent job with just that image trace button.
Okay. I guess it's just me not paying for Illustrator. So I haven't seen that. But there have been cases where I needed a vector version of something. And I haven't been able to do it.
Like I said, also, there's definitely a website that I used one time that I don't remember the name of right now, but it does exactly that. It does the image trace thing, but in a browser, and less good, but still pretty good.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just cut all that out since that actually exists.
Yeah. I think it's a thing. I don't know if a lot of people know about that. And
I know I have looked before, and I haven't been able to find anything that didn't look super sketchy.
What's really cool, too, is I always want to do this thing where...
No pun intended.
Basically, I want to take an image and just abstract it. So basically, I want to say, hey, reduce the number of colors in this. So if there's like 2 blues that are really similar, just make like blue, right? Yeah. And so if you use image trace and you set it to like, I forget how you have to set it right now. It's like custom limited, I think is the mode. But you can specify the number of colors that you want in the trace of the image. So if I have like a picture of, I did it with Saturn, right? When I made that Saturn flag, I just wanted like, I played around with it just to see like what was the right number of colors so that it still kind of looked like Saturn and had the right amount of gradient. but I think I ended up with like 12 or something, like 10 or 12 total colors in the image without any, because it's vector, so it's not any kind of like pixels or like colors in between or anything like that. And that's really cool because you can just abstract anything down to like the minimal amount of colors that still makes it look like an image.
Yeah.
Or the original image.
Yeah. I've done stuff like that before too. And that is really cool.
Yeah,
I think I made like a thing of Mars or something a few years ago.
Yeah. I mean, if you just make it like 2 colors and it's a picture of like Mars in space, you'll just end up with like, a red ball on a black background. And if you do like 3, you'll get like a little bit of Mars detail or whatever. And so you can get some really cool, like kind of cartoony looking type stuff with that.
Yeah. You're saying you just did it to get the colors though. So this didn't also create the actual image.
No, yeah, I was just like, what is the most Saturn color? So I was just trying to abstract all of Saturn to like one color so that I could just use it as the color of the Saturn in my flag.
Yeah.
Because technically there were a couple like bands running through it because Saturn kind of has like, it's not a pure color. Like Uranus and stuff is like a pure color, but Saturn is kind of like a couple different layers going on.
Yeah. Oh, this is completely unrelated aside from it's related to Saturn, but when I went backpacking last weekend, like when you're in the mountains, there's like no light, no artificial light for like miles and miles and miles. So the sky is like, you can see all the stars, and Mars was out and it was like very, very clearly visible. And so was Jupiter and Saturn.
Yeah.
So
Mars is like
all 3.
I mean, just a little while ago, it was like the largest it's been in like a long, long time, right? Or like the closest, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm like not all that interested in like local astronomy stuff because it doesn't really matter on the bigger picture of the universe, like how close Mars is and how Marsy Mars looks or whatever. But it is cool to look up and just be like, oh, yeah, that's clearly Mars because it's just so prominent and sort of like red tinted.
Yeah. There's really, I don't really care too much normally either, except for like maybe in 20 years, this will be like the quickest journey to just go to Mars. But like when you're in the mountains like that and you can just very clearly see everything, it was really cool seeing. It was just like by far the brightest thing. It had like the slightest like red tint to it. It was really cool.
I was just caving like a couple days ago, and it was like the most intense caving that I've been in. This doesn't have to get into the podcast. I think we're just talking at this point, but it was like 6-inch of like 6 to 8 inch of clearance, maybe like 10 inches. I don't know. But just passages, and they were like maybe a car or 2 car lengths wide, but the most clearance point was like 10 inches ish.
So you're like actually getting in there, like having to crawl through these little crevices.
Oh yeah, it was like solid belly crawl. But then when I left, well, there's the whole thing with it. I left because I left alone, and I didn't really know the way back to like the cars, and I like, just basically like ran through the woods in caving gear, and it was not fun. But then I went back to like kind of the camp area that they had set up, and there's no lights anywhere because it was the middle of like Kentucky, rural Kentucky, and it was just, you can never see, like, you don't truly see those pictures that are like the long exposures, no matter how little light you have.
Yeah.
But it is really, you really can see part of the Milky Way and just some great, like really impressive sky that looks different than what you would find near any kind of light.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's usually my favorite part of going, is seeing that. I would like to go, like, I've gone on like tours through the caves, but it would be really cool to like actually go caving.
Yeah, I mean, we should, if you're back here, or I don't know if Seattle has caves that we could maybe hit up one or something. I mean, I don't otherwise. It's weird to like, you can't really like reserve a cave or anything. It's hard to get in one, but I guess you just kind of join a grotto type thing, and I think it's pretty fun.
Do you need like a permit?
I think we talked about that, but
oh yeah, I think
right, like it's like there's a lot of politics with the grottos, and it's basically whoever owns it, just to get permission, or if you're part of a grotto. Like I joined this one that the guy who's been taking me caving, like, is the organizer of, and basically there's this one big bat cave here, and that's the one that I was just in doing. Like they have this whole project to scan it with the LiDAR. I think we talked about that sometime before.
Yeah.
And I think if I understand correctly, like I would never do this because I'm like so not confident on my own about it. But like in theory, I could just be like, "Hey Ken, I'm gonna go in the cave now." And I think maybe there's a key because sometimes they have like a gate. Although there's definitely an entrance that doesn't have a gate, so I think I could technically just show up and go in the cave. But like, you know, you got to get other people involved, and it's like a 6-hour affair at minimum, and you know. So I'm really glad that he's just organizing this stuff.
Yeah. It's always cool to have somebody else do all that.
Yeah, what I love is it just Ken's like, "Hey Paul, we're gonna do this thing," and I don't understand what he's talking about at all. But he just says like meet at this time at this place, and then we like carpool down to the caves like an hour away in southern Kentucky. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll show up. And I just like get whisked away and see random parts of the country. I don't even know where I am, and I'm like, all right, cool. And we cave.